This, and I'm going to play it from the beginning because I forgot to mention it. If you ever speak to a Torah observer, uh, especially rabbis that really know the Old Testament very well, they know that they have no right to any land, that they're in exile right now waiting for the Messiah. You see, the true Jews, Torah observants, that know the Torah real well, they know that God plucked them out of the land. They could read that in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, especially 28, 15, all the way to the end of the chapter. So if you ask them, they know that they should be in exile. Of course, they're waiting on the Messiah. We know as Christians the Messiah came 2,000 years ago, but they don't understand that fact. Yet they understand that they're in exile, that they're just visitors in any land. They could live anywhere, including the Middle East, including Palestine, but they don't have any rights to the land. Like I said, you don't have to believe anything I say. Just Google that fact and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, having said that, there is no such thing as Torah observant, in my opinion, as a Christian, because I know the Torah was built around the temple and the Levitical priesthood, and there's no temple now. The temple was like a slaughterhouse to atone for sin. But that's besides the point. That's not the topic of today.
Well, hello again. I've been wanting to do this video for a while now. I keep delaying it, but today I have time to share this with you. Sorry about the eye patch. I had a procedure yesterday above the eye. I don't mean to look like Moshe Dayan, but maybe it's ironic that this topic today may reflect on that. But in today's day, where is the most dangerous place for the Jewish people? If you go all around the world, you come to one place only, in the middle of the world, state of Israel, what they call now Palestine. It's the most dangerous place for Jews, with others too. If you live in America, in England, in Europe, all throughout the world, you never see as a Jewish boy, you never see a soldier. But if you go to Israel, every two steps, you see tanks, soldiers, artilleries. This is as a Jewish boy growing up in that area. It's the most dangerous place for Jews. Now, October 7th didn't start on the 7th of October. It started back in 1948 in the Nakba, or actually before, not as dramatic. You know, in the 1890s, they started this plan, and the agenda was to bring the Jews back into the land. But in 1948, we know that it was the Nakba. 1948, on the 15th of May, I believe. Um, the Nakba is a massacre, in case you didn't know. That's when they wanted to cover up the genocide and the killing to Palestinians. This didn't start October 7th of last year. Um, what they do is they, for instance, just in Gaza alone, they want to control when those 2+ million people have electricity, when they can have water, when they can have food. I mean, this is how they control those people, preventing medicine and so forth. Basic human rights, basically. So these people that are doing this, are causing this to the Palestinian people, have nothing to do with God. And the state of Israel is in rebellion with God. And it will come to an end. At one point, it will stop. And I think the world is coming to that understanding, not completely, because of the control of Zionism in this world, whether it's the politicians or the heads of states or the media itself. But if you think about them and what they do to the Palestinian people, they are more like Nazis and not Jews. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play a clip soon after this, so you can hear yourself from a rabbi how he differentiates between Torah observant Jews and Judaism versus Zionism. I often talk about this, how I remember hearing from elders uh, that they used to, just to cause the Jews from the surrounding area move to Israel, they used to inflict much pain on the Jews themselves. In Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, all this, Morocco, all the surrounding area, Iraq, they used to bomb the Jewish homes, bomb the Jewish businesses. I'm talking about the Zionists, so they can force them to move back into the land. They needed people to occupy the land. That's the apartheid state. The minority is ruling the majority now, but not for too long. It will never succeed more than a few generations. Then it has to come to an end. So the most dangerous place for the Jews, for the Jewish kids right now, is Israel itself. It's Israel, it's nowhere else. Now you could say, of course, you could tell me you bring up the Holocaust in the Second World War, but I tell you, this is exactly what I'm talking about. They had to sacrifice Jews in order to establish their satanic Zionism agenda in the Middle East. And it's been a cancer, the only cancer in the whole world. You understand what I'm saying? The Zionists, which were not known then, not out in the open, were in collaboration with the Nazis to sacrifice Jews so they can go on with their agenda to plant that state of Israel there. And like I told you just now, a few minutes ago, they did the same thing in a sense, not as horrific as the Holocaust, in the Middle Eastern area, even beyond, by bombing and destroying Jewish homes and businesses so they can force these people to say, we've had enough. Of course, they didn't know who was doing it. Maybe some did. I'm not aware of it. But you would think it's that country that's going opposing to the Jews themselves, but it was the Zionist movement behind it. Because they had to do it to have a migration from those surrounding areas to the land. Anyway, go ahead and view the next video and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I've been speaking about this topic for a while now, quite a few years, but I'm afraid that it's been falling on deaf ears, especially to the Christian community, and I can understand the influence of dispensationalism and Zionism, or Christian Zionism in that aspect. It's a tough road ahead for us to explain, but I wanted you to hear from this Torah observant rabbi and how he speaks of what Judaism is versus Zionism. Of course, he's going to talk more about Zionism and what it's done to the people that are inflicted on both sides, or on all sides, if you ask me, regarding this situation. Maybe you can believe him because when I speak, it seems like people would identify me as from Palestinian heritage, and they waive that, out of consideration. And I can understand that, but just so you know, my identity is in Christ and Christ alone. I don't pledge any allegiance to any flag or country except for Christ and Christ alone. Have a listen.
Now, this last Saturday, it was shocking to the world, but the world doesn't seem to take in regard the 75 years that every day almost, you have Palestinian death and suffering. But we as Jews do take this into consideration. It's not how I personally look at this. It's how, as a Jew who's observant, who's following the rules of the Judaism, of the Torah, Judaism is subservience to God. That's what it's all about. It's a religion of 3,000 years, while Zionism is a mere 150 years. It's a transformation to nationalism, to have a piece of land. It's a political movement. It's a materialistic movement. It was started by Jews who are non-religious, and they're simply incorporating, using the name Israel, using the Star of David, and claiming that it's a God, it's given to them by God. And we who are following the Torah, who are true to the Torah, stand up adamantly refuting what they're saying. The Torah clearly states that we shall not kill, we shall not steal, and the whole concept is strange, is totally antithetical to our teachings, contradictory. The Jewish community had been living together with the Muslim community and the Christian community, and since this movement started, and since they gained hold in the land and eventually got rule over the land, there's been endless bloodshed. There's hate that has grown thousandfold. It's a wedge driven between the Jews and the Muslims, and it's brought death and suffering to the Palestinian people in the majority, but to the Jewish populace also. As we see this last Saturday, it was shocking to the world, but the world doesn't seem to take in regard the 75 years that every day almost you have Palestinian death and suffering. But we as Jews do take this into consideration. We say this is clearly a rebellion against God, and it hurts us more than usual because it's being done in our name. And the rabbis you are seeing, the power bases that you are seeing in the settlements, that is fringe to the Jewish communities, those are the ones who bought into this tale that it's God's wish. But the central part of Judaism, the very religious, in whatever country, maybe in Argentina, the very religious says, no, we're dead set against this. We cry with the Palestinians. And therefore, what's happening today in Gaza, that they're bombing them relentlessly, and they're pointing and they're accusing them of being animals. It's even hard to repeat, and whatever they say of them, of being terrorists, it's all to cover their totally illegitimate occupation. And to that, I'll bring a simple proof. We lived together, the Jewish community, for hundreds of years in Palestine, in Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Iran, in all the countries we lived and flourished as religious Jews amongst religious Muslims without any human rights groups to protect us. We always lived together. We babysat each other's children, even though we have a distinctly different religion, and it was never a cause of animosity. All that changed is the introduction of Zionism, the control of the land. And since that came, which is not 1948, it's in the 1890s or so, and they started coming in and taking over the lands. Since then, there's death and suffering, the Palestinians and of the Jews, because they are creating this fear, this hate, this estrangement. We can show many pictures how the Jews live together. Anybody old Arab will tell you, and every old Jew, how we used to babysit each other's children, like I say, and help each other. And many stories of people will tell us. So it's clearly what these Ben Gvir and these other people are saying. They are coming from Mizrahi. That is that segment that is religious Zionists, but not the central, what we call the Eid Chorei, this God-fearing community, and around the world. We stand in total opposition, and it hurts us, and we have no words for the suffering, the Palestinians. That's why we came out, let's even today. Yes, we go out in tens of thousands, but we would have hundreds of thousands demonstrating constantly, but the fear of the repercussions from the Zionists, because they're vicious. We went out, 2 days ago to Manhattan. We demonstrated. I came back, the tar cars were slashed, the mirrors were broken. This is nothing to what they threat. They have death threats. And in Jerusalem and Al-Quds and in the other parts of occupied Palestine, they people get killed and arrested and so forth. So there's a reason why there's less of a voice that you will hear, even though our communities are full in opposition to Zionism.